Now, cystic fibrosis is a classic and indeed a very good example of autosomal recessive inheritance. So the normal gene, which will give a big C, is dominant. The cystic fibrosis gene is recessive, which will give a small c. And the disease is actually caused by a deficiency in a transmembrane conducting regulator protein, cystic fibrosis transmembrane regulator. That doesn't matter too much for the purposes of this, it's genetically controlled. So the recessive gene is the disease gene for cystic fibrosis. And we can think about various possibilities. So let's, for example, think about one parent who's big C, small c. Now they've got a big C, so that means they've got one copy of the normal dominant gene. And that means that essentially they're going to be phenotypically normal. But genotypically, of course, we see that they're heterozygous for the cystic fibrosis gene. Now this situation affects about 1 in 25 of the population in the UK. So about 1 in 25 of us will be carrying this defective cystic fibrosis gene, and many of us may never know. So let's imagine this person wants to reproduce and they meet, whether it's male or female doesn't matter because it's autosomal. So it doesn't matter whether they're male or female. But let's suppose they meet someone who is big C, big C. Now this person we can see is genetically or genotypically homozygous. They have 2 copies of the normal dominant gene, meaning of course they are phenotypically normal and indeed genotypically normal. Now let's see what would happen here. So we'll have that and a small c there, big C there and a big C there, as we saw on the 3rd video in this series. So that gamete combining with that will give us big C, big C. So this person, or this possible child, would be genotypically homozygous for the normal dominant gene. They would be phenotypically normal, and there is no possibility of them passing the defective cystic fibrosis gene onto the next generation. And this situation here, where that one combines with that one, well, that would be the same. So again, good news. Phenotypically, genotypically normal. But here, the small c could combine with the big C, and again that would give us someone who is genotypically heterozygous, but fortunately, because they have one copy of the normal dominant gene, they will be phenotypically normal, so that's fine. They'd probably never know. But of course, they could potentially pass that on to the next generation. We will call those carriers. They are carrying the defective gene but not suffering from it themselves. And maybe that one could combine with that one, and I think you see we get the same situation there. So no sufferers from that situation, and this person and these people may never know they're carrying the defective gene. But then for the next generation, one of the 25 who are big C, small c could meet another one of the 25. They could produce gametes. That could combine with that one. Actually, that's okay, isn't it? Big C, 2 copies of the normal dominant gene, so everything's fine. Genotypically homozygous for the normal gene, phenotypically normal. No possibility of carrying on to the next generation. But that one will give us a carrier. They won't suffer from the disease, phenotypically they're normal, but they could potentially carry it on to the next generation. That situation there, small c, big C, again a carrier, but phenotypically normal. But then here we have the possibility for small c, small c. Now this person does not carry a copy of the normal dominant gene, Therefore, the recessive cystic fibrosis gene will be expressed. And phenotypically, this person will suffer from cystic fibrosis with thick secretions in the lungs, pancreas, gastrointestinal tract. And because the secretions are thick, they're very prone to obstructing small passages and becoming infected. And this person will be ill with cystic fibrosis because they have not inherited a copy of the normal dominant gene. And again, we see that gives rise to the classic monohybrid ratio, which of course is 3 to 1. 1 chance in 4 that any individual will be affected. So, most times, someone with cystic fibrosis is going to reproduce with what we might call one of the 24 out of the 25. Someone who's normal. But occasionally, the 1 in 25 will meet the 1 in 25. Neither of them may know they have cystic fibrosis, but there's a 1 in 3 chance that any of their children will be affected by cystic fibrosis. Now, there is a gene test for this if cystic fibrosis is in the family, so people can know. So our role is to advise people what the probability is of any one child being affected. Now, what often happens is 2 parents will have a child with cystic fibrosis. In other words, a child that's small c, small c. Before that, they didn't know anything was wrong. But providing both of the parents are normal, are phenotypically normal, then from this phenotype, that is when the child suffers from cystic fibrosis, we can know that their genotype is small c, they're carrying 2 copies of the recessive defective gene for cystic fibrosis. Because both of the parents are normal, we can infer that both of the parents are genotypically heterozygous. Therefore, we can inform them for any future children they might have, there will be a 1 in 3 chance that that child will be affected by cystic fibrosis. That's the information we need to give. The choices are then up to the parents whether they want to reproduce with those odds or not.